Chapter 2. The Blanket Conspiracy. I get to the Chevron at 2:04, not 2 o'clock. People who arrive on the hour are on a list. The squeegees were wrong again. They are wrong every night. This is not the squeegee's fault. A squeegee is a simple instrument. It absorbs the vibrational load of the whole station, the pumps, the coolers, the lottery machine. All of it drains down into the squeegee bucket because water seeks the lowest point, and so does everything else. If nobody discharges that load, it builds up. You've been to gas stations where nobody does the squeegees. You know the feeling those places have. Now you know why. Nobody pays me to do it. Payment would compromise the work. The man came in at 2:15. I clocked him at the door, the way I clock everyone, off the beverage cooler doors, which give you 3 angles if you stand where I stand. I do not look at people directly when they enter. Direct looking is a transmission, and I don't transmit for free. Assessment took 11 minutes. I am thorough, not slow. Aura, burnt orange. Gait, heel first. Blood type, H. I stand by all 3. He poured a sock out on the counter, and I heard coins that weren't coins. Washers. A man who has converted his savings to washers is a man who has already figured out the quarter thing on his own, independently, with no help, which nobody does. I had never met anyone else who'd done it. I finished the squeegees. The work comes first. The work always comes first. And I checked him one more time in the fisheye. He was already looking at me. Not at the store. At me, in the mirror, tracking me the way I track people. And here is the thing that I will state once and not repeat because it does not need repeating. Nobody had ever looked back before. I ran the standard checks. I smelled the last squeegee. It confirmed what I'd suspected about Tuesday. I set it down and I walked the long way, chip aisle, back past the coolers, comparing his reflection to his body at each surface. They matched at all 6 checkpoints. You would be surprised how many people fail at checkpoint 4. Up close he was blinking at me in a pattern. Rapid, slow, rapid, rapid, hold. I recognized it immediately. It was the pattern I use. I invented that pattern in 1998 to keep my eyes from drying out on long shifts of not sleeping, and this man had arrived at it on his own, the same way he'd arrived at the washers, and I thought, either this is a plant, the most sophisticated plant ever sent, a plant so good they gave him my own blink. Or this is the other one. Everyone has one other one. This is documented. Somewhere out there is one person running your same operating system on their own hardware, and the odds of meeting them are so small that the government doesn't even bother preventing it. That's how small. They don't budget for it. I tested him. I said the thing about loose cigarettes and resonance, which is a test with one right answer, and he said, a full pack is 20 antennas in a foil-lined box. Foil-lined. I hadn't said foil. I never say foil first. He brought his own foil. So I told him about the blankets. I had never told anyone about the blankets. I'm going to tell you now, and I'm going to tell it the way I told him, which is the short way, because the blanket situation is not complicated. People assume the truth is complicated. The truth is simple. Cover-ups are complicated. That's how you tell them apart. Here is the blanket situation. Your body makes heat. Heat is information. How big you are, where you are, how scared you are, whether you're alone. Loose heat rises and scatters and reads as static. Fine, nobody can use static. A blanket collects it. A blanket holds your whole night's heat in one organized layer, pressed flat, high resolution, like a photograph of your sleep. Every fear you sweated out, every dream that raised your temperature, held right there in the fibers in a nice neat sheet. And in the morning you throw it in the wash, and the water carries it down. And all the drains in this country go to the same place. Everyone knows this. They didn't have to put a chip in you. You buy the collector yourself. You buy it in a print you picked out. You wrap yourself in the recorder every night voluntarily, and you pay for the privilege, and if it wears out you buy another one, and the whole apparatus is so smooth that when you meet the one woman who opted out, your first question is what's wrong with her. I have not slept under a blanket since the Clinton administration. In solidarity with my own position, I have mostly not slept at all. People say, Tammy, you have to sleep, and I say, I'll sleep when the infrastructure changes. The man listened to the whole blanket situation without blinking out of his pattern once. When I finished, he didn't ask if I was serious. He didn't do the slow nod people do while they locate the exits. He asked one question, and it was the right question, the only right question, the question I had been waiting since the Clinton administration for one single person to ask. He said, "What do you sleep under?" Not, "Do you sleep?" Not, "Are you okay?" What do you sleep under? A logistics question. A question from a man already working on the problem. Cardboard, I told him. Cardboard breathes your heat straight up and out. Scrambled, illegible. The box people know what they built. That's why the boxes come with those big printed arrows pointing up. It's instructions. He looked at me and said, "You're telling me the arrows were right there the whole time?" And his voice broke a little in the middle of it, and that is when I knew, with the same certainty I know Tuesday from a squeegee, that I loved him. I want to say this part plainly, because I say everything plainly. I had been running my operation alone for 26 years. I was good at it. I was the best there was. And I had stopped noticing that the operation had one flaw, which is that when you find something, and I find things every night, I find things nobody else has ever found, you turn around to show somebody, and the somebody is not there. You adapt to that. You stop turning around. It saves time and it costs you everything, and you don't feel it going because it goes the way heat goes through cardboard, straight up and out, scrambled, illegible, even to yourself. He was standing right there, 4 feet, the correct distance. And I turned around to show him something for the first time. I showed him the dark past the diesel island, the pressure out there, the waiting, and he was already looking at it. He'd felt it independently. He'll tell you he felt it independently, and he's telling the truth. I verified it later against his account, and the timelines hold up. Shadowbirds, I said. He didn't ask what shadowbirds are. Good, because the answer takes 4 hours and the birds don't give you 4 hours. He asked how long we had. Another logistics question, 2 for 2. I told him, dawn if we're lucky, less if we're loud. He turned back to the counter and pushed all 14 washers at Devon, the whole sock, his entire fortune, and requisitioned the cones. Every cone Chevron had, on our first date. Some women get flowers, which are listening devices with a cent budget, and some women get dinner, which is a 2-hour session in a room wired for sound with a menu you didn't write. I got a man liquidating his assets at 2:31 in the morning to fund a perimeter. Devon said the cones weren't his to give. Devon says that about everything. Devon has never once understood what's at stake, and I love that for him. It must be so quiet in there. We took the cones. We took the broom. The man walked to the door and held it open. Heel first, exactly like I said. He argues this point to this day, and he argues it wrong. And the bugs swarmed the light over the pumps, and the dark sat there past the diesel island, waiting to see what we do about it. 26 years I worked alone. I'm Tammy, I said. I know, he said. I could tell. He could not have known. There is no surface in that store that transmits my name. I've checked them all. He knew anyway. That's Billy.